Have you ever witnessed a moment so pure that it felt like time had stopped? A moment that made you question everything you thought you knew about love, kindness, and innocence. Picture this. A little toddler, barely steady on his tiny feet, walking down an ordinary street with his parents just a few steps behind. Suddenly, he notices a dog, not a fluffy pet with a shiny collar, but a stray. His fur rough, his eyes tired, his body carrying the weight of countless lonely nights. Most people would look away, some might even feel fear, and others would simply pass without a second glance. But this child, he did something no one expected. He walked straight toward that dog with the most fearless little smile, and leaned in to give him the gentlest kiss. What happened next left every single person frozen in disbelief, and it's a story that will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. It was a calm afternoon in a quiet neighborhood. The sun was soft, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and gold. People moved about slowly, a man carrying groceries, a woman pulling her child's hand, a few cars rolling by lazily. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But then came the sound of tiny footsteps, a toddler, wobbling a little but full of energy, his laughter echoing like the sweetest music. His parents trailed behind, smiling at the way their little one explored the world with such innocent curiosity. Just a few steps ahead, sitting by the side of the road, was a dog. Not the kind you'd find in a cozy home, brushed and well-fed. No. This dog was different. His fur was messy, patches of dirt clung to his body, and his ribs showed faintly through his skin. His eyes, though, his eyes told a story of loneliness, of hunger, of waiting for something, or someone. Most people had grown used to ignoring him. To them, he was just another stray blending into the background of daily life. But not to the toddler. The child's eyes lit up the moment he saw the dog, as if he had just discovered the most fascinating treasure on earth. The parents froze for a moment, watching closely, unsure of what their little boy would do. And that's when the story truly began. The toddler's tiny feet pattered against the pavement as he moved closer to the dog. Every step felt heavier for his parents, their hearts racing with worry. They had seen stray dogs before, and they knew how unpredictable things could be. A father's instinct said, "Stop him, pull him back, keep him safe." A mother's heart whispered, "Maybe just wait, maybe something beautiful will happen." The dog noticed the little boy approaching. His ears perked up, his body stiffened, and for a second, it looked as if he might run away. Strays are used to rejection. They expect people to throw stones, to shout, to chase them off. But this child, he wasn't afraid. His eyes sparkled with joy, his tiny hand stretched out, and his lips curved into the sweetest smile. Onlookers began to slow down, watching this strange scene unfold. Some shook their heads nervously, whispering that it was dangerous. Others felt a curiosity pulling them closer. The street, which had been so ordinary just minutes ago, now held its breath. And then, in one innocent motion, the toddler leaned forward. Without fear, without hesitation, he pressed a gentle kiss on the dog's face. Gasps filled the air. A woman covered her mouth in shock. The parents froze completely, torn between fear and awe. And the dog did something no one expected. Instead of snarling, instead of pulling away, he lowered his head, and softly closed his eyes, as if he had just received the very thing he had been waiting for his entire life, love. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The noise of passing cars faded, footsteps slowed, even the breeze felt still, as if the entire street was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The dog did not growl. He did not back away. Instead, his tail gave a single, slow wag. His body, once stiff and cautious, began to soften. His eyes, those tired, lonely eyes, glistened, and in them was something almost human, relief. He lowered his head further, leaning into the toddler's tiny hands, as though he had finally found the comfort he had been searching for all his life. The kiss, so small and innocent, had broken through walls built from years of pain and rejection. Whispers spread among the crowd. "Did you see that?" one man murmured, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. A woman clutched her chest, eyes watery, whispering, "That dog, he understands. He really understands." The toddler giggled, a sound so pure it melted away every trace of fear in the air. The dog responded by sitting down gently beside the child, careful, protective, almost as though he knew this little human had just chosen him. The parents, still frozen, could hardly process what they were seeing. Fear turned into astonishment. Astonishment turned into awe. Their child, without a single word, had just touched a heart that the world had long ignored. And from that moment on, something unexplainable happened, a bond was formed. The kind of bond that doesn't ask for food or shelter, but one that speaks in the language of trust, loyalty, and unconditional love. But what no one on that street knew, was the story hidden behind those tired eyes. This dog wasn't always a stray. Once, long ago, he belonged to someone. He had known the warmth of a home, the sound of laughter, the feeling of a gentle hand stroking his head. He had once been loved. But life can be cruel. His family moved away, leaving him behind. Days turned into nights, and nights into weeks. At first, he waited, right outside the gate, tail wagging, convinced they would come back for him. But they never did. Hunger soon replaced hope. He roamed the streets searching for scraps, drinking from dirty puddles, curling up in dark corners just to survive the cold. Every time he approached someone, he was met with fear, harsh words, or a stone thrown to chase him away. The world taught him a bitter lesson, that love was temporary, and kindness was rare. And yet, despite it all, his heart never fully hardened. Deep inside, he carried a quiet longing, a desperate hope that maybe, one day, someone would look at him not as a threat, not as a nuisance, but as a soul worthy of love. That day had finally come, not from an adult, not from someone cautious and guarded, but from a child. A child too innocent to see scars, too pure to judge appearances. In that single kiss, the dog felt what he had been waiting for all these years, acceptance. His eyes, glistening under the fading sunlight, told a story without words. It was as if he was saying, "I've been hurt, I've been forgotten, but today, you reminded me that love still exists." And it was in that moment, as the toddler's laughter rang out, that the dog made a silent promise, a promise that would reveal itself sooner than anyone expected. The street was still buzzing with whispers, people trying to make sense of the unusual scene, a stray dog sitting calmly beside a toddler as though they had known each other forever. Parents were about to step forward, ready to gently pull their child away, when something sudden and terrifying happened. From the corner of the road, a car appeared, moving too fast, far too fast for a quiet neighborhood. The driver, distracted, didn't notice the little boy who had wandered a step too close to the edge of the street. Gasps filled the air. A mother's scream tore through the silence. The father's legs jolted forward, but it was too late. And then, the impossible. The stray dog leapt. With a burst of strength, he pushed himself between the toddler and the oncoming car. His body collided gently but firmly against the child, nudging him out of harm's way, while the car screeched to a halt just inches away. The world froze. The toddler sat on the ground, unharmed, eyes wide in surprise. The parents rushed forward, scooping him into their arms, their hearts pounding with both fear and gratitude. And the dog? He stood there, trembling but tall, his chest rising and falling heavily. His tail wagged once, as though to say, "You're safe." That's all that matters. What moments ago was just a tender kiss had now turned into something far greater, a bond sealed by loyalty and sacrifice. The dog didn't know this child. He wasn't fed by him. He wasn't sheltered by him. But in that moment, he chose to protect him as if he were his very own. The crowd, once skeptical and uneasy, now stood in stunned silence. Some wiped their eyes. Others whispered words like guardian, angel, and miracle. The kiss had been the beginning. But this act of protection, this was the proof that love, once given, never goes unanswered. The mother held her child tightly against her chest, her hands trembling as tears welled up in her eyes. She couldn't stop replaying what had just happened, how, in a split second, a stray dog had become her son's shield. The father stood close, his face pale but his gaze locked on the dog, as if trying to understand how such loyalty could come from an animal the world had rejected. The dog remained still, ears lowered, eyes soft, as though waiting for permission to stay. He wasn't begging for food. He wasn't demanding anything in return. All he wanted was to know that the child he had protected was truly safe. The toddler, still nestled in his mother's arms, suddenly reached out, little hands stretching toward the dog, giggling as though nothing frightening had just happened. To the child, the dog wasn't a stray, wasn't a threat, he was a friend. A friend who had just saved his life. The mother hesitated. The father's jaw tightened. But then, something shifted. Slowly, carefully, the parents lowered their child to the ground once more. And the moment his tiny feet touched the pavement, he waddled straight to the dog, wrapping his little arms around him in the purest hug. The dog froze at first, unaccustomed to such affection, but then lowered his head into the child's embrace. His tail began to wag, not with the frantic energy of excitement, but with the steady, quiet rhythm of peace. Around them, strangers who had stopped to watch found themselves moved to tears. Phones were lowered, hands covered mouths, and some whispered prayers under their breath. In that small corner of the world, everyone had just witnessed something far greater than a chance meeting. They had witnessed proof that love, raw, unconditional, fearless love, still existed. And in that moment, the stray was no longer a stray. He was a guardian. A protector. A reminder that sometimes the most broken souls carry the deepest capacity for love. Long after the car had disappeared and the street had returned to its ordinary rhythm, the memory of that moment remained carved into the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. A toddler's innocent kiss, a dog's silent promise, and a life-saving leap had turned an ordinary day into a story no one would ever forget. The parents looked at their child differently that evening, realizing that innocence is not weakness, but a kind of wisdom we adults often lose. Children do not see scars, or dirt, or the labels society puts on others. They see hearts. And sometimes, that is enough. The dog too had been changed. What began as a lonely existence marked by rejection ended with acceptance. He was no longer invisible. No longer just another stray. He was loved, not because of what he had, not because of what he could give, but simply because he existed and was worthy of it. And isn't that the truth about life? That love has the power to heal the deepest wounds, to rebuild trust where none seemed possible, and to remind us that compassion is never wasted. This story teaches us something powerful: love given without conditions will always find its way back. Sometimes it comes through family, sometimes through friends, and sometimes, through the wag of a tail and the kiss of a child. So the next time you pass by someone, or something, that looks forgotten, broken, or unworthy, pause for just a moment. Because you never know, a single act of kindness might be the very thing that changes their world. And maybe, just maybe, it will change yours too.